Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you. It might not. All right, so just a heads up with this. As soon as I went to tap into this energy, immediately this felt really emotionally heavy. I felt kind of overwhelmed. There's a lot of emotions like depression, sadness, anger, confusion. There's a lot going on here. So just bear with me. I'm just trying to get through this one because this does feel like a very sad situation that I'm tapped into here. And when I went to tap into the energies, I kept hearing the word catastrophic, and I heard the word karmic and traumatizing. And I feel like there has been some type of messy, painful, I just heard social politicking. But I feel like there's been a bad ending here between two people. And I do feel like this ending is between two people. It's either just between these two people or it is primarily between these two people. And what I mean by that is there is a sense of other people being around these two that had this like ending between them or this like primary ending. And take that how it resonates, because for some of you, this is like a romantic kind of situation. For others, this is, to do with friendship in a friend group. For others, this is family. For others, this is coworkers. So just apply this to whatever arena and whatever kind of, relationship dynamic this is. But I do get the sense that other people are around. If this ending was just between these two people, I feel like there are other people around that are somehow caught up in the fallout of this messy ending and are maybe at like the whims of it. They're receiving some type of effect. But if there's a primary ending between these two, that means that there's potentially other endings here. And that maybe makes the situation a little bit more complex. And I'm not trying to confuse you, but I do feel this is coming through for a significant portion of you where this is the case, where if this is like a social group, especially, if these people hang out a lot, or if there has been some type of messy situation, or if the conditions are just right here, then you've got a group of friends, but it's comprised of maybe significant one-to-one relationships between many of these people. And I feel like this primary ending here has maybe had some type of ripple effect. So the group has like fallen apart, or there's also other people. So for instance, like, okay, Emma is mad at Joe, but Joe is also mad at Kevin. And I feel like there's this stacking of this dynamic that I just described. There's seemingly a primary ending between two people, like a Libran. Two people are having a problem in their relationship, right? But there's other people around. So you could have people playing more than one role here, where they're in a primary ending with one person, but they're on the periphery of another primary ending with another person. And somehow these may have some type of effect of the way that people are processing information, passing along information, reacting in the situation. And so it can get kind of stacked and convoluted and confusing. So take this however it resonates. Now, the people around these primary people, I feel like however few or however many of them there are, these are souls that are somehow karmically bound, is what I'm hearing, karmically wrapped up in this ending. And they're either, each one of them, they're either bound up causally, like they were a part of the cause of this ending, or they were a part of why it was so bad, why it was so messy, why there wasn't a resolution. So it's either that, or they are bound up karmically in the effects of this primary ending between these two. And so there is karmic rebalancing that's happening in this like very messy, I just heard the word turgid situation here. So you've got some people in this primary dynamic, could be one or the other of these people, or maybe both. I'm kind of feeling it's one or the other. And then even like tertiary people that are owed something karmically. And I feel like the karmic rebalancing does have something to do with like Libran dynamics. So some people are owed a truthful, direct conversation to allow them to have their choice and allow them to navigate this situation by their own choice. And therefore, like, their karmas are kind of like navigating the way, because some of these people were lied to, or they weren't told the whole truth about something, right? And it's again causing like some type of mess here. But for others, they needed to have a certain conversation, or they needed to not have a certain conversation, or they needed, right? There's karmas to be rebalanced here. And whatever these karmas are, wherever, like whatever position you are playing or other people are playing on the field, I feel like these karmas are to do with Mars. So what I mean by that, they're actually showing me the tower card in my mind, but it's very interesting to me the way this is coming through, because I'm not seeing the tower moment itself, which is that bolt out of the blue that actually struck the tower and caused the tower to fall. I'm not seeing that. That's not what they're showing me. They're showing me like dust that is settling, that's kind of swirling around the destructive ending. And I feel like that's relevant for the people that are somehow karmically wrapped up in this situation. For these primary two people, that there's like this kind of primary ending between them. I feel like for both of them, for different reasons and from different vantage points, whatever the tower moment was that kind of ended things, I don't feel like they knew that that was the end. I think it was somehow later on, as things progressed or something here was like more revealed, or they thought about it more or something, they realized that, oh wow, that's done. That's done. There's no putting that toothpaste back in the tube kind of a thing. And I feel like, again, it's for different reasons for both of them. And loosely, I feel like the way this shakes out is for one of them, they did something. And I think that they were maybe on autopilot, or they're driven very unconsciously by the way that they are, but I feel like it's tied to some type of emotional state that they don't know how to handle in a correct or healthy way. And so they were very selfish, and they were very strategic, and they were maybe aggressive in some type of way too. That could be socially. I kind of feel like it's socially with all these other people around. They wanted to hurt this person. They wanted to cause them some type of emotional pain maybe, or they acted out and they didn't realize like just how fucked up it was. And I feel like they were like, whoa, they didn't, all the words that I'm using, I don't think they used those words. I think they felt justified, or they felt like it was hidden or something, or it was like taking a hit off a cigarette to move in the way that they were moving. But it has something to do with Mars in the sense that, Mars does rule over war and competition. And I feel like even subconsciously, this person was maybe angling to throw competition in the mix, or they were angling for some type of war. They wanted some type of fight, to release their like emotional state. But Mars, it also rules over the body and schmegs. So that could be, part of that competition energy here. Mars rules over blood, and it rules over cuts. And I feel like something here drew blood, even on like an emotional plane, and it cut really deep. They cut this person. And I don't think they meant to hurt this person. I actually think they loved this person, or they wanted this to kind of like work out, but they did something so like heinous, or something you can't take back. And they didn't realize that that's what they were doing until it was like too late. And then they were like, oh shit. And they saw like the dust kind of settling. I just heard, and down here from the ground, I see who you are. Now, this other person, I feel like they didn't recognize it because both of these people have a very unhealthy Mars. So that first person, they're like overly merged with Mars, like the blood pumping energy. Again, maybe with the body, I feel like that leads to a kind of a materialistic worldview. This is also like winning. And it could be this is a person that's obsessed with like body count or something. They think it makes them cool. Whatever they did here, I think they're like, yeah, this makes me cool. This makes me the winner, right? But no, it just makes you like a jerk. This other person also has an unhealthy relationship with their Mars, but it's in like the exact opposite way. I feel like this person is kind to a fault, to the point where they get taken advantage of, or they get like treated like a doormat. And people always think that, and whatever you heard about this person, I feel like this part of like what's fucked up here, whatever you've heard about this person, or whatever you've seen, because it's part of this person's life path to overcome this. And they need to stand up for themselves, and they need to say when enough is enough. And that may have played out here between these two. But this person essentially becomes a doormat, because I feel like they were always taught to forgive. And it's like just as like a knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, well, you just forgive. And I do think there's a certain like level of leadership with this person where they're like, if I lead with my hand open. And I think potentially that happened here. And so they didn't realize that something here was over, because I think they are taught like you turn the other cheek, right? Or you forgive, like you reach out your hand here. But I think as the dust settled, it's either that they did that and they got cut again, because I just saw them reach out their hand, like all vulnerable with like the underside of their hand, like showing, and I'm seeing this person slice their wrist. So they were trying to make the amends, and they were leading up to some type of opening, and then this person did something else, like messed up. Or they just thought about it. They had enough time to really think about it. And as they thought about it, they put it together that, oh, this person did that on purpose. This person was selfish on purpose. There was strategy to this. They can't unsee it. And so you can't really let a person like that back around you. Even though, like I said, I feel like this is a sad situation because there is love here. I feel like this person was mistreated, and it's confusing for them because they know that emotionally this person's kind of messy and they don't know how to deal with themselves, and they know that this person cares about them, but they have to protect themselves, against this person. And so there's a karmic exchange, there's a karmic balance where I feel like the person who act out because they're immature and they're very selfish. I feel like they owed this person like a conversation, some type of direct conversation about their emotions rather than acting out. I also think that there's a sense of third parties being involved here. And the way that these third parties are involved, I do think is somewhat karmic. Now, for this first person that I described that's very selfish, very strategic, I think because this person is like very insecure, and I do think they were heartbroken or like their version of it, even if they were confused, because I do have a fairy tale card here. So again, they should have maybe had a conversation about their feelings, but instead maybe they cast this person into a category. They saw something here, and I think they projected their own selfish nature, their own sexual or strategic nature outwards onto this person and accused this person of being selfish or stubborn, and then they took it all out on this person who didn't deserve it and is not that way. But that person, I think there's another currency here is what I want to say. There's another variable between these two, and it's attention. And I think that there's a sense of this person, one of these people, I feel like, or maybe both, I think, okay, the Six of Cups is coming out here. So there's maybe this is to do with childhood or a past, but I feel like somebody here, I actually think it's the person who is like full of forgiveness and stuff. I think that person maybe naturally gets attention. But again, they don't have this strategic kind of nature. So I feel like it comes from a genuine place where maybe this person has like a lot of friends, or it feels like this is a very authentic energy where it's like Venus. This person doesn't have a strong connection with their Mars of like, I need to be selfish. I need to throw elbows to get mine. Like they don't have that, and they need to have it more. I'm not saying like, oh, this person is, Susie Cream Cheese. I think they are, and I think it's to their detriment. But I think this person is like very Venusian. I think they're very well-rounded. They could be broadly intelligent. They bring a lot of value. They're very fair. They're very balanced. They're very diplomatic. So this is a person who's kind and is seen that way, and who has friends and who gets attention. And that is somehow that is a part of the triggering for this first person who is more selfish and who is more strategic, because it's triggering someplace in them to do with attention. So it could be that this person didn't get enough attention. They were like neglected or they were overlooked in their childhood. Now this could be overall. And so this could be a person where any kind of attention is good attention. Even if this person's yelling at them, it's better than just indifference. Even if, so it could be that, or it could be a certain type of attention that this other person gets. And I actually think this person may get a well-rounded kind of attention. They might, have friends that, like them. And so they get healthy attention that way. And then maybe they are working on their career in some way. So they get healthy attention that way, right? But there's something here that's a real trigger for this person, and it could be specific. So it could be that this person, either overall or at a certain period in their life, they didn't think that they were getting maybe sexual attention. Maybe they didn't think that a lot of people were interested in them. Maybe it was to do with their career. They feel like, they're never chosen for a promotion, or nobody notices how hard they work or anything. But whatever it was a trigger for this person. And so I think for this first person, attention becomes a weapon in some way, where they either try to, I'm seeing like Jupiter, Mars, which for me, that's like, getting somebody in hot water. So this could be like a reactive abuse situation. They're trying to trigger this person. And this is deflection. They're trying to deflect and not deal and process with their own emotions, which they are supposed to do to balance out the situation. They're supposed to calm themselves down, understand where they're coming from, have a direct conversation with this other person that says, hey, I'm sorry. I felt this way, blah, 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 what say you kind of a thing. But I think they were trying to get this other person in some type of hot water, and it had something to do with attention. So they're either trying to starve this person who very naturally gets attention. They're trying to starve them of attention in general by like overshadowing them, or it's like Scarlet Letter, like branding them a certain way. And they would have to be terrible in order to do that to this particular person. They'd have to lie by omission or otherwise. Or it could be that they're trying to get negative attention on this person who doesn't deserve it and who doesn't normally have that. Or they're trying to get a certain kind of attention from this person, or they're conflating. Because again, I think with Venus, there's a well-rounded energy here. People could be interested in this person. I feel like they're a really good partner to have. But some people are interested in the career. So they conflate the two. Oh, well, that person's just doing that to get sexual attention. Oh, that person's just using their sexual attention to get their career. This is all jealousy. It's confusion. This person's a hot ass fucking mess. Like whoever this is over here. And I feel like it is really adding, like building. There's something going on behind the scenes though, is what I'm getting. So Like I said, this has to do with these like tertiary people because there's third party energy here. And there might be more than one third party, but it's like each of them is a third party. I don't necessarily feel like it's a group of people, but take that as it resonates. So this first person who's very selfish and very strategic, I feel like strategically they would pull in a third party in order to advantage themselves and disadvantage this other person. They do not want fairness in this situation. They do not want justice, because if that played out, this person would be held accountable and they would be seen as lacking. Maybe they would be ridiculed or like socially ostracized because they're dangerous. They're making some type of weird social maneuvering, and a healthy group would say, you can't be around because you're doing that to this person, which is unacceptable, and you're liable to do this to anybody else. You need to go fix yourself, but they don't want that to happen. And I think this person is kind of fucked up a bit around this issue and where attention is concerned. So I think they tell themselves that it's fair. Like, oh, well, this person has an advantage over me because they're likable. That's called good karmas, okay? Because yeah, they're likable, but it's genuine, it's authentic. But this person's like, well, if I have any fighting chance, I gotta pull people into my side. So this is either sexually, they slept with somebody else, or they're doing that behind the scenes. And I think they're doing it to make themselves feel better emotionally, like taking a hit off of a cigarette. They don't know how to process their emotions, like in a fair, balanced, healthy kind of way. They're certainly doing that in lieu of having a conversation. But this also could be a third party that they're pulling in here, like in a platonic way. They're trying to pull in friends. And these friends may know both of these people, but there's where we'll talk about the karmas. I don't want to get into that. Like, we'll talk about the karmas for like the people that are around in just a second, but they are wanting people to take their side. It also could be that they pulled in some type of authority, but this person is lying by omission, and they're trying to, they're misrepresenting the truth. They're either conveniently leaving out like fucked up things that they did, right, in order to paint certain things in their own way. Now, this other person though, who again, they also have an unhealthy relationship with their Mars, but they need to learn how to stand up for themselves. I actually think that part of the karmas here is that they're meant to maybe ask for help. They're meant to maybe open up to a third party here, like a friend or somebody else, or maybe they're meant to let this person go and try a healthier relationship or try to find a healthier relationship. I feel like they might maybe need help because I think something here that happened to them was like violent. It was emotionally violent, or it was like it meant to harm them, and it was strategic, and I feel like this person needs support actually. And that is also where like karmas are playing out for these people around these two. And again, like scales are trying to be balanced here. So now let's talk about these people that are around, because I feel like it kind of goes without saying, like it's a bit like, well, duh, how could it be any other way? But I do actually think this is an important variable here. So these people that are around these two and this like primary ending here, these people know one or both of these people to varying degrees of acquaintance. And that is somehow a factor here in the karmas, but it's also why they can be karmically tested in this situation, because the karmas that they're being tested on may have to do with Mars, like their own strategy, their own competitiveness, that kind of thing. But it has to do with like a Libran dynamic. So I feel like, especially, there's tower energy for these people too, but it's kind of like tower light, where it feels like being thrown a hot potato, where it was like very startling or very shocking. And so I feel like they maybe saw something here, but I think for most of them, they heard something. If they saw something, I feel like maybe they didn't know what they were seeing because they didn't see an earlier tower moment, or they didn't realize that they were seeing a tower moment because there was some type of dog whistle abuse going on here, or again, social politicking. They had maybe already been lied to. They didn't know what it was that they were seeing, or like reactive abuse here. But these people, I think most of them heard something, and that's like receiving a hot potato. And that's when the time starts ticking. And that's when, because it feels like these people have some type of decision to make. And it could be like taking sides in an overt way of like, I don't know if this is like a divorce. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to write some type of letter of recommendation for one of these people over another of these people, saying that they should get the house or they should get the kids and, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's like a thing, but it could be something here like that where they need to declare some type of overt declaration of allegiance to one of these people. But it also could be that they're at like somehow like subtly or in a roundabout way, they're being asked to support one of these people over the other and take some type of action, or not to take some type of action. Like, oh, don't go to that person's performance. you know? And even though they know both of these people and they're kind of on friendly terms with this other person, but it's like, you know, I would consider that disloyal to me if you go to that person's performance, right? Or I need you to do this fucked up thing to this other person that advantages me and disadvantages them. I need you to be a part of me baiting this person into reactive abuse. It's something here, but there's a decision that these people have to make, and it has to do with the way they engage here as well. So these people need to be thinking, what is fair in this situation and what is balanced? And in order to genuinely assess that, they need to be aware of their own internal state. I feel like that's their own Mars energy. Because for some of these people, I'm just going to be very honest, they're jealous of, I think, this other person who's like very Venusian. And so it shocked them, whatever this person was being accused of or how this person painted that person. But it overjoyed them. It just tickled them pink because they wanted an excuse to hate this person, but there really is none in the way that this person behaves and has conducted themselves. So they want to believe it. So that is, they have a motive. They have some type of internal motive to not be fair in this situation and not hear out both sides and not consider like some type of balanced approach, right? So there is some kind of Libran testing about this, somebody's inner Mars, but also I think, in order to interact in this situation in a fair and balanced way, they have to place themselves between these two people. They have to understand their relationship dynamics with each of these people, because, like I said, they have varying degrees of acquaintance with one or both of these people. So some of these people only know one of these people. So they've only ever heard one side of the story. And if you've reached adulthood and you haven't learned that there's always three sides to the story, your side, my side, and the truth, then there's just no helping you. And so I feel like somebody here needs to kind of recognize that. Like, well, I'm sure there's some truth to what you're saying. I'm sure this person has their own side of it. And I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle. So given that I really only know one of you, and I've had one-to-one conversations with only one of you, I am going to stay out of it. You're asking me to kind of participate or bolster your side, but I'm going to stay out of it. I'm your friend. I'm happy to support you, you know, behind the scenes, but it would be unfair. And not knowing the situation, I would hate to cause harm in this situation. I would hate to cause injustice in this situation, because somebody here is trying to bolster their side. They're trying to secretly social politic and like get people on their side of things because they know they're in the wrong. And they know that, you know, in the light of day, fairness would have them losing in some capacity. For some of these people, they know both, and like to varying degrees, but that's where they need to assess who they're kind of closer to. Because some of these people, I'm going to be very honest, especially if they are closer to this person who is like very Venusian and I think has been targeted by this other person, either before, like that's what caused the breakup between the two. They were targeted, you know, by this person, or there's also a possibility where it's like by a third party here. They were targeted, a third party that like wanted them for themselves, or they wanted their job, or they wanted to take them out. Right. So they needed to, break these two up, and there could have been a bad ending between them, but it caused the bad ending between people here, like soulmates, that I think there was like a solid foundation of like genuine friendship, right? But especially if these people on the tertiary are closer to this like Venusian person who's like really never done anything wrong, I think karmically they owe this person a direct conversation about something that's going on behind the scenes here. They need to say, look, this person has pulled in a third party. They're sleeping with somebody else. Or look, this person's saying XYZ about you. They owe this person some type of direct conversation. Or again, if they're closer to this person, they may owe whoever's being nasty. They may owe them a direct conversation of, hey, we all know you're lying, so knock it the fuck off. You know that we know both of you and you're causing problems here. This person's been nothing but nice. There might be some truth to what you're saying, but they're not here to defend themselves. And we're not taking sides. So cool it, right? There's somebody is like owed a direct conversation here. And obviously I think somebody here is lying. They're either leaving certain things out or like they're not telling the full truth here because they have an agenda to stack the odds in their favor. And so I also think at the core of this is shame. This has either brought out shame or people are maneuvering like based on their shame. I feel like whoever this primary person is that's very selfish and merged with their Mars and very strategic, they feel some type of shame they feel inadequate. And I think they are inadequate, if I'm being perfectly honest. And the way to deal with inadequacy is just straight on. If you feel inadequate in your career, take some vocational classes. That's how you fix that. You don't fix that by social politicking and maneuvering around and trying to tear people down that are doing well in their career. And this person doesn't have that healthy perspective. And I keep hearing like too late. So I feel like maybe it's too late to fix this or something. I'm not sure. And I think that whoever they targeted, I think wrongly takes on, I think this is a habit, and I think they did in this situation. They took on all of the blame, or they took on too much of the blame, because they deserved to be treated fairly. And this person doesn't know that. This person, I think, is always kind of saying, there could be like an element of wrong place, wrong time. Like, or, oh, they really didn't mean it. You know, it was wrong place, wrong time. Or this is the person who will, in their mind, they'll say, well, I know they've been having a hard time. And so they always give people the benefit of the doubt. Other people, I think this person's also like really hard on themselves, because they always critique themselves. And I think part of that is very noble, because this person knows that they have control over their own actions, which is, by the way, why they have really good karmas and why people like them, is because this person's trustworthy. This person follows through. And if they can't, they'll have that direct conversation with you. You know, they really try their best. And that's just likable, you know, in a person. But I think that this person was, so they felt ashamed, that they felt like, this is also somebody that's like, well, I shouldn't have been dressed that way. You know, I guess I was asking for it, you know, and that's not true. But this person doesn't know that, which is why there are karmic rebalancing third parties that need to tell this person that. They need to reflect back, like, no one should have been treating you this way. There is no excuse for someone treating you that way. You could have been dressed like Bozo the fucking clown, and there is no excuse for you being like roasted, you know, or for you being whatever. Like, it shouldn't have happened. You are a beautiful person. And even if you weren't, you deserve to be treated fairly. You deserve for justice to happen in this situation, because there's a lot going on here behind the scenes. And I feel like, okay, so I got the 4 of Swords here. I've got a heartbreak card. And for me, I'm kind of reading that as the 3 of Swords, which is the 7 of Swords. So we got the 4 of Swords, the 3 of Swords, the 7 of Swords. And then I've got the Judgment card. So to me, this is like very clearly a person, or it feels like people are maneuvering behind someone's back here. And it's shady. And I think some of these people want to believe that they're not being shady, so they're projecting. They're not at all factoring themselves into the equation of, again, placing them in time and space, trying to be fair or balanced. And instead, they're just kind of believing what they were told by a liar and going after somebody here. So Spirit's trying to illuminate this. Something here about an ending. And I do think for most of you, this has gone on in the past, but there is a small group here where this is a heads up, because something's going on. And Spirit's saying, you got to pay attention to this kind of stuff. You really need to pay attention to fairness. You've got to place yourself in time and space here. You need to know that you are closer to one of these people or the other one, but you do know, you know, this other person, you know that they're kind or whatever. You know, it's like there's 2 sides to every story. You've heard one person's side. You haven't heard the other person's side. Do not involve, right? Because if you do, this is going to end badly. You are continuing to be wrapped up karmically in this, because you can free yourself by just, I think for a lot of people, it's staying out of it when they're meant to stay out of it, because they don't know both of these people, or they haven't spoken to both of these people equally. Or it's like some of these people are actually very close to someone who's being mucked around behind the scenes, and they do actually owe this person the truth. And some of these people are scared because I think maybe they participated, or they have to explain why they were there or why they didn't interject. I also feel like whatever was said behind someone's back, or whatever was done here, it confused people that, like, about some kind of 6 of Cups energy. So it confused people about the past. It confused people maybe about a friendship that they were involved in, or why this person was friends with them, or why this person was friends with somebody else, or wait, were those people just friends? It confused things. And it also has something to do with the 9 of Pentacles. So how is this person independent, you know, or maybe this person's just after money, or they're kind of full of themselves. It confused people here. I also think, especially for this person who is very strategic, they maybe pulled in a third party, or I think multiple third parties here, to try and make this person jealous, to wound them, to try to, you know, get some revenge in, like, from, they felt heartbroken. I kind of feel, again, there's this, I've got phony, trickster, illusions, and fairy tale here. And then I've also got my way, selfish, stubborn, arrogant, pride, and ego. I feel like this person is pride. Their ego was wounded, but it was a fantasy. They needed to have a direct conversation with this person, clear it up. They needed to have it, you know, in the right way. They needed to say, I think for some of them, that I miss you. But, so instead, though, I feel like they got all aggressive, and I think they cast some type of illusion in their own mind, and they were maybe navigating from that, but also potentially to other people here, that this other person who is very kind, to a fault to the point where they are a doormat and they need to not be, because people like this other person exist, right? They got to be able to protect themselves and they have every right to, but they were framing that as this person being selfish or this person being stubborn. I actually think this Venus person, there's a sense of them working really hard to build their Taurian energy. So like working very hard to build like their Garden of Eden, to have something for themselves, you know, a plot of land, a home, abundance, beauty, you know, harmony, well-roundedness. And that could be in a work environment, or that could be, you know, in their home. And I've got a card here that says happily single, doing you, dating, stress-free, setting goals, career focused. I feel like this person, it's either that they are genuinely happy single, and maybe that felt like a rejection to this other person, or like they're very independent, or this is somebody that is has a focus on like their schooling or their career goals. But it also could have been a lie of like, oh yeah, that person's like happily single. They're doing you, whatever. But really this person's defending something here that they're building. They're not necessarily happy alone. They're not necessarily happy single. They're not unhappy necessarily. I feel like this is more of a healthier person, but, they are just having to protect themselves against these people. And some of these people, I got to just be honest. There's shame here, but some of these people are just not ashamed enough. Like they don't have enough shame. The way that they behave in the world, if they were genuinely sorry, maybe they have shame, but they're like burying it, but they're not sorry. They're not sorry enough, you know, for the way that they are behaving. And again, there could have been some type of message or some type of trip here, and it's turned something around. It came in hot or something here. And somebody is now like just thinking, they're strategizing. I'm hearing too late. Something here is just, it's too late. This other person, whatever third party they brought in is this other person, right? That's more fused with their Mars. Whatever third party they brought in is the same as them in their inner workings. Like they're very aggressive. They're very selfish. They're very strategic. They do what benefits them. And so I think this person kind of on some level knew what they were doing. They knew that they brought somebody in that would be objectionable to this nice person. They knew that somebody would take swipes at this person, or that it would hurt this person, that they were close to this other person, or that they were involved with them or something. They knew that. And now they want to be heartbroken that it didn't work out between them and somebody here is turning their back. Yeah, because, okay, also we've got Virgo and Scorpio. I feel like something here was like secret or sexual or something, and it was hidden, and it was like on some type of routine basis. Somebody here needed to tell that. I think ideally it would have been this primary person. They need to open up. They need to say that. I don't know how to manage my emotions. So I get aggressive in order to try to take the pressure off. And I need to stop doing that. It's unacceptable. There is no excuse for my actions. And so I won't sit here and try to tell you an excuse for my actions, because there just is none. But again, there's maybe people who know about something this person's doing that's fucked up and strategic and on a routine basis. And some of these people are karmically bound. They need to tell this other person. They don't need to ambush this person. They don't need to let them walk in at the moment of penetration and get traumatized. They need to tell this person what's going on so that they can make their decision, dragging out in the light whatever's gone on in darkness here. Yeah, we've got psycho, crazy ex, obsessed, won't let go, and workplace affair. I also feel like there is a sense of these two people, or maybe even like this tertiary group, people like miss each other here. But I feel like this person who was aggressive genuinely does miss this other person, whether they can say it or not. I feel like maybe this person's gotten themselves into a hole. You know, they social politicked themselves right out of being able to have what they love, you know, and that sucks. And it feels like that's karma for that person. This other person, I think, misses this other person, and potentially they were like ganged up on, and they miss who they thought this person was. And that's like a fantasy, because in reality, this person is very stubborn and mean. And they were trying to hurt this person. And I think they maybe miss some other people here in this group, but they don't know who they can trust. They don't know who's who. And they don't know who's who and what is what. And I think some of you have like a question here of, how did this happen? How did this get so bad? And I don't know where you are at in this situation, but essentially it got so bad because there's other people around these two in some type of social capacity. And these other people know one or both of these people to varying degrees. And they're being karmically tested here on their own selfishness, their own strategy, their own need to be competitive. And this might tie back into attention as well. And they're being tested on fairness. Like, they need to be fair. They need to be balanced. And there's karmas here to do with one-to-one conversations. Who have they had a one-to-one conversation with? Who doesn't want to have a one-to-one conversation with them? They need to honor that as well. They can't just be pestering somebody because there's just not a faster way you could prove nobody should be having an intimate conversation with you, right? They need to, that's all a part of it. The way that they conduct themselves in these one-to-one conversations, the decisions that they made, who they have relationships with, they need to, that's why this got so bad, because, and it feels like one of these people, again, one of the primary people is just not inclined to fairness either. They know that they're wrong and they don't want to be held accountable. And so they're trying to stack the odds in their favor by pulling people in on their side. But they can lie to these people. So they're targeting people who, like I said, varying degrees of acquaintance. They're targeting people here that don't know their Six of Cups. So it's maybe for some, it's like they don't know who they are, who they were as a kid. They don't know something about their past here. Or again, they didn't see the tower moment that happened between these two people. So it's for them to fill in the blanks. And they're targeting people. That's why, like for some, there's the way that people conduct themselves in these conversations matter. They need to ask certain questions here. They need to realize that there's certain things being left out, and they need to, I just feel like there's no excuse if these people, again, if they've reached the age of adulthood and you don't know, there are 3 versions to every story, your story, my story, and the truth. So even if you feel this person is being honest, that they side with themselves, so they might be they're not a reliable narrator of this other person's feelings, of this other person's actions, of this other person's side. They're not. They are involved in the situation, and so it's their side. There's an entire other side that you would have to seek out or have access to completely separate from this other person if you are going to fairly make some kind of decision. But for some of you, I think part of it is the karma is, I'm not in a position to be an arbiter here. Don't ask me to make a decision about this because it's not my job and I wasn't there and I'm not in a position to do that, So I feel like this situation has brought out a lot of shame, or it's fueled by shame. There's shame kind of bound up into this. And I do feel like there's been an ending. Spirit's trying to illuminate certain things. And again, I'm seeing too late. Backstab. Yeah. I just heard the damage is done. So I guess I'll be leaving. So yeah, too late. Backstab, pain, cheating, deception, mind games, and love bomb. I feel like something here might be too late. Feeling like shit, and also married. So I don't know. For some of you, maybe somebody here is married, and that does mark some type of final ending here, karmically, because I do feel for some of you, this really is done, like on a soul level. I think somebody here, for some of you, they really have processed through this situation. They've like cord cut and they've like let go of this. And I think whatever other lessons they were learning in this situation, it feels like they're to a point where they can learn those lessons elsewhere, maybe with a safer group. That's passed their karmic tests to do with fairness and balance in the way they conduct themselves in relationships and conversation. Because I think it was the harder stuff, the more aggressive, heinous stuff that they had to learn here and like kind of process and say, okay, not everybody's like me. Not everybody has the same heart that I do, or even the same intelligence, because Libra is an air sign, and it feels like you have to have a certain level of intelligence to be able to be fair in this situation and to conduct yourself in a fair way in a conversation and to actually get to the truth. You have to do your own like self-awareness. You have to become aware of your own Mars, your own aggressiveness, your own shame, and factor that into the equation. It takes a certain level of intellect. So I think this person, that's why they need to learn to stand up for themselves. They need to learn how to draw a hard boundary or to say no, absolutely not in a situation. How to cut away, how to leave when they are not being treated fairly, because somebody here I feel like was ganged up on and they were absolutely not treated fairly. And I do think there's a lot of people here where it's like, how did this get so out of hand? And I feel like if you look at all the variables here, you've got one person who's inclined to pull in third parties in order to bolster their own side. They are definitely not above lying, and they don't have good, healthy, like emotional regulation. And they do this other weird shit in lieu of that. And it affects the way something here could have spread like wildfire. There's potentially jealousy. There's maybe even other selfish people here that are involved. Yeah, it got out of hand. And it feels like somebody here really could have been ganged up on, whether that was you or whether that's somebody else here. I keep hearing too late. So I feel like I'm going to leave that there. Just like I said, this was a tough one. There's Tower energy. And it feels like maybe there's somebody here is realizing how they were. It feels like Spirit is trying to illuminate something here. So that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.